What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Monkey King MMA show. This week we're having UFC Vegas 87, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Shamil Gaziev in the main event. And this card is a banger. It's low-key a banger. The main card is full of banger fights. We're going to see some flyweight contenders come out. Before we get into it, I want to talk about what happened last week. UFC Mexico City, my most confident play was Yair Rodriguez. I was talking about it everywhere. And even on my Discord, if you're in my Discord, I give out a parlay, a Hail Mary parlay every single week. One giant parlay that I think is going to hit. And we were off by one leg once again. Just in 2024, I think we've been off by one leg maybe like 3 different times. And this week it was Yair Rodriguez. I can't believe that your opponent rolls their ankle before the fight even starts and they still win the fight. Without further ado, we're coming back stronger than ever. Let's get right into the predictions. First up on the bout order, we got Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi versus Loic Radzhabov. I usually pick against the aging fighter who's coming off of a finished loss, blah, blah, blah. But in this particular case, I think that Loic Radzhabov has the exact formula necessary in order to beat Al-Sawadi, meaning the heavy hands, the offensive grappling. Al-Sawadi, whenever he gets hit with heavy shots, heavy punches, he usually relies on his ability to take the fight to the ground and control the fight there. But I don't think that's going to be able to work against Radzhabov. He has a very strong base. He seems to have a low center of gravity, hard to take down, and I have him winning this fight. I have his money line, and I have 2 units on it. We move on up the card to Ludovic Klein versus AJ Cunningham. So this fight, this whole booking, this whole matchup, it's kind of a slap in the face. By the way, AJ Cunningham did not even get a win on the Contender Series. Whenever he went on the Contender Series, he lost by knockout. So I'm just curious as to why this fight is even booked. Ludovic Klein by KO is pretty much a lock here. And if it's minus 200 or better, I'm willing to smash that. If it's not, then I'm staying away. We move on up the card to Christian Leroy Duncan versus Claudio Ribeiro. Ribeito's recipe for success is going to be get on the inside, make it a brawl, make it a dirty fight, maybe initiate clinch and hold him against the cage for a little bit. But Christian Leroy Duncan is going to have to be creative on the outside and just win the distance battle, which I think he will. And that's why I have Christian Leroy Duncan winning this fight by KO or decision. We move on up the card to Ayman Zahabi versus Javid Basharat. I think Javid Basharat wins this fight. And like every fight, I think he's going to, mix it up, use his striking, use his grappling. You never know when it's coming. He's a very complete mixed martial artist, and he usually wins on the scorecards. He's very good about that. He's good about getting ahead on the scorecards, staying ahead on the scorecards, and winning on the scorecards. So I have Javid Basharat winning this fight by decision. I'm not willing to bet anything on this fight just because I've seen the lines and the lines look very juiced up. So waiting on other lines to come out. Not sure what's going to happen. Join the Discord if you want to find out. We move on up the card to Vinicius Oliveira versus Bernardo Sopai. People are overlooking Bernardo Sopai here. Vinicius Oliveira is dangerous with the hands. Don't get me wrong. But Bernardo Sopai is a great fundamental boxer. He has good low kicks, good high kicks as well. Great grappling base. He's going to walk down Vinicius Oliveira, I think. Similar to the way that Ali Taleb did, if you watch any film. I think that Bernardo Sopai presents a similar type of danger. He has a very good jab, Bernardo Sopai does. And I expect this to be just a one-sided stand-up affair with Bernardo Sopai just dictating the pace, walking down Vinicius Oliveira. And now for the featured prelim, Eric Anders versus Jamie Pickett. Of all the fights on this card, they chose this one to be the featured prelim. Why is Jamie Pickett the featured prelim on this card? Like, what? This one is pretty obvious to me. I think that Jamie Pickett's only path to victory is to just clinch Eric Anders against the cage and just hold him there. And I never want to take that kind of bet. I don't think that that's going to be successful. I don't think Jamie Pickett's going to be successful in executing that. And I think Eric Anders all day. I think Eric Anders is going to get some damage off on Jamie Pickett and win this one pretty easily. We move on up the card to Matt Schnell versus Steve Erceg. Matt Schnell is coming off of an over 1 year long layoff. That's always a huge red flag. And Steve Erceg is just dangerous right now. He's on one of those upswings that you see that's kind of propelling a fighter towards a title shot. And so I'm going to have to go with Steve Erceg here. I think I see some holes in Matt Schnell's ground game that I could see Steve Erceg, taking advantage of. So I could see Steve Erceg winning this fight by a submission or a decision. Not sure exactly which, so I'm betting the double chance. So we move on up the card to Umar Nurmagomedov versus Beksat Almakhan. In this particular matchup, because of the quality of resources, I think that Umar Nurmagomedov should be able to win this fight. The reason why I say think is because I can't even find any footage on Beksat, this opponent. I found one on Twitter, and it was this weird clip of him fighting this guy inside of the cage, and they had literal rugs inside of the cage. Like, rugs were inside of the cage, and I was like, why did they put rugs inside of the cage? But yeah, this is some guy that they pulled out of nowhere. He's not bad, but Umar Nurmagomedov should get the win here. We move on up the card to Alex Perez versus Muhammad Mokaev. A lot of people like to bash on Muhammad Mokaev. That's the usual trend nowadays. They say that he had life and death fight with Malcolm Gordon. It wasn't life and death. Come on. And that fight against Tim Elliott, I'm personally a Tim Elliott enjoyer. I think he has a weird style. It's hard for fighters to understand how to fight him because he has such an unconventional style. And so I don't think Mokaev is as bad as some people make him out to be. Obviously, he's up against Alex Perez. He's coming off of a really long layoff as well. And Muhammad Mokaev is just another one of those surging flyweights. Like I mentioned earlier with Steve Erceg, these are the two flyweight contenders on this card that I think are going to just propel themselves into this title conversation in the next couple of years. I'm going with Muhammad Mokaev. I think he wins this fight by submission. Move on up the card to Vitor Petrino versus Tyson Pedro. I actually have a very specific vision for this fight, and you're going to have to hear me out. So, early on in this fight, both of these guys have good striking, right? Vitor Petrino is going to be hitting Tyson Pedro with all these, heavy shots, even high kicks. I think the high kicks are going to be drawing dramatic reactions out of Tyson Pedro. But Tyson Pedro has good hands. He's going to hang in there. He's going to probably try to counter, maybe catch a kick or two, do some crazy shit, stay in the fight. Because that's what Tyson Pedro does. He's not some kind of weak loser who's going to be knocked out in round one. But round two comes around, more of the same thing. Petrino's going to be hitting Pedro with some heavy shots. So we're going to see Tyson Pedro, absorbing that shot and then coming back and trying to counter, not being quite as effective as Petrino was. And then in round three, Petrino does get a little bit sloppier. I think the cardio is going to start dwindling a little bit. He's going to be throwing a little bit sloppier, missing a couple shots. Tyson Pedro might rally back. I'm thinking that that's what's going to happen. Tyson Pedro might be rallying back into round three, but it's just not even going to be enough time. It's not going to be enough time. And I think Petrino is going to eke out a decision win against Tyson Pedro. And now for the main event of UFC Vegas 87, we have Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Shamil Gaziev. I've been seeing some discourse about this fight on Twitter. Apparently, a lot of people don't think Shamil Gaziev deserves a main event after beating Martin Buday. Martin Buday was 4-0, and Shamil Gaziev has a fun style to watch. This is going to be a big, heavy clash of hands. I think that Jairzinho Rozenstruik honestly has been plagued with bad matchups. I don't think he does good against people who have good boxing, who have, heavy hands. I see him getting knocked out by Shamil Gaziev. In a 5-round fight, I think Shamil Gaziev is going to win that fight by KO. Yeah. But I'm not going to bet the KO. I'm going to go with the money line. And yeah, that's how I think it goes. If you made it this far, make sure to comment Apple so I know that you made it this far. I appreciate you guys so much for watching this video. And yeah, if you want to join my Discord and get all of my picks early, I post all of my picks first on Discord. So join the Discord family. I'm literally talking there on a daily basis. So if you want to chat with me, then make sure to join my Discord. And also go to www.MonkeyKingBets.com. If you want to help support this channel, it's how we basically fuel our entire company and bring you guys the best quality content possible. So make sure to go buy our merchandise and rep it around if you want to support our channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.